Hey, what's up, everybody? If you've watched this channel long enough, I'm sure you figured out that I mostly dwell in that kind of classic rock through hair metal territory, but I actually have a huge passion for country music as well, which isn't to say that I'm very good at it. I'm actually just mildly okay at best, and that's all I'm going to say about that. But what I do know really well is how to get those sounds, so I put two rigs together for you today. One kind of covering that 1950s through end of the 90s territory with just the clean Fender amps and some effects and compression, that kind of stuff. And then the other one from like 2000s and on, when the boutique amps really started booming, especially down in Nashville, where there was a big boom in like the high-end AC30 kind of clones, Dr. Z, Matchless, that kind of stuff. Basically EF86 power amps, Class A kind of amps. So those are the two different kinds of sounds I'll be showing you today. So stay tuned and check those out. Alrighty, so this is going to be the classic country rig using the Fender amp, and we're just using the usual LT TV Mix 2 impulse response with it's a Marshall 412 with greenbacks in it. And then we have, I don't have a good impulse response of a Jensen speaker, so which would be more appropriate for a Fender Twin, I guess. But even if I did, it would probably be a paid one, which I couldn't share with you guys, and I like being able to share the impulse response. And of course, Leon Todd has graciously allowed the world to share his impulse responses for free, so thank you, Leon. And then some spring reverb. You'll see the mix is very low. There really isn't a whole lot going on here. Just a little bit for just some dimension in the sound. And then we are using the Black Duo 8 model, which is just a black face twin reverb. With the volume quite high, this in real life, a twin reverb on 3/4 of the way up would punch a hole through your chest. But it just feels good once it gets up to that point. Little flat before that, doesn't really respond too well. It just responds much better when it's cooking a little, but it's still clean at that point. So Fender Magic 6 going on in the EQ. We've got treble at 60, mids at 30, bass at 20. And then I'm going to be using the built-in vibrato on the amp. So I've just got that set up for kind of a middle-of-the-road texture kind of giving thing when you're holding chords and stuff. And that is that. My usual parametric EQ trick, emulating two power amps. If you're new to the channel, check out my video. It's really crucial to kind of everything I dial in on the Headrush pedal board. So it's certainly not required. And then we have some compression, which I'll turn off real quick. So the compressor adds definitely some volume. You'll notice that this is a little bit on the quieter side without it, but the amp just on its own with some spring reverb sounds like this. Okay, and that's it. And then with the compressor on, which I've designed this rig to have the compressor on like all the time. There really isn't a foot switchable way to turn it off. And that sounds like this. So you'll notice that on this gray comp, the sustain's only at 30%, but it's doing a really good job of grabbing those notes right at the attack already. This one is based on the Ross compressor. Our other two compressors, the side chain, the side comp, that's something to just be used with the effects loop of the Headrush. It's a little bit different from everything. And then the Dyne 3 comp is like a studio rack compressor, meant more for post EQing, not so much for feeding into the front of an amp. It can be used for that purpose, but for me, that's more of like an 80s synth wave and like metal kind of clean thing, where you have the studio rack compressor in the front and kind of squishing down on your choruses and that kind of stuff. The gray comp really is the compressor of choice for like a country guitar rig. Very similar to like the Keeley compressor. I used to have the 4-knob one. It's a great compressor. And then like the Wampler Ego Comp, I had that one too. That was awesome. I actually think the Headrush could really benefit from a compressor with the blend knob from the Ego Comp. So hopefully we get that at some point. We're gonna skip the auto swell for now, but for when you want things to get just a little bit dirty, there is a tube screamer in here. There's no drive coming from the pedal itself. The tone's at 80%, so fairly bright, and that sounds like this. Had to keep that fairly bright for the sake of context when you're actually strumming away, and then you need maybe a little bit of grit in your sound in the rhythm. This was the best choice I was able to find in the Headrush. I tried the Klon, but the Klon right now is tough because the output on it is really high, which I think is a complaint that's being addressed through the forums and that stuff. So hopefully that gets fixed. It's a little bit hard to use right now. But in general, what's tough for me is I don't use like in with real amps and pedals. There's no pedal that I really used for its own gain. I only use tube screamers and like Boss SD1s and that kind of stuff to boost an already dirty amp. And I don't think that our options are all that great yet for anything that totally changes the character of a clean amp. So this is where we're at with that. But anyway, so the graphic EQ is just for a volume boost for the lead scene that I have made, 3.5 decibels in clean volume, nothing else going on. And then there is chorus in some of the more classic country stuff. So just some light chorusing there. There's no feedback going on, just rate at 0.1, as low as it can go, depth at 70%. And that is that. And then the built-in vibrato from the Fender amp sounds like this. Right, so anyone that's played in a country band or some kind of maybe even like a pop band knows that most of the time you're not doing the crazy chicken picking like lead kind of stuff like Brad or someone like Brett Mason would be doing. A lot of times you're ringing out chords, you're just holding some kind of some texture and some space down, and that's it. So the vibrato's really cool for that kind of stuff. Just so that it's not just plain chord holding all of the time. And you can, of course, combine that with, say, like the tape echo, which is what you heard earlier. I'm sorry, not the tape echo, the slap echo, using the BBD delay model. Yeah, so... Okay, and then we'll turn that off. And then there's some tape. Now we're onto the tape echo. Just a basic delay, nothing crazy there. 300 milliseconds for when you need a little bit of more space and bigness for if you are playing the lead part for some reason. It's nothing obnoxious. It's just there for texture. country music is very held back in that regard. It's not my usual like effects laden like hair metal kind of thing. So the next part I want to show you is the auto swell, which I use to kind of make a fake pedal steel kind of thing. It's not exactly the same, it never will be, but let me show it to you in context. So I'm going to record a loop real quick, and then I will play the auto swell stuff over it, kind of emulating some pedal steel licks. So bear with me, and we'll be right back. Alrighty, and we're back. So I use this auto swell. Well, let me show you the settings really quickly. The trigger sensitivity is set to 90% and the attack at 400 milliseconds. And we are in slow mode. And we're kind of just trying to emulate those sweeping like little chords that they play. We don't have any of the like the key change stuff going on with the pedals and stuff. That'll be for another video. There is a way to fake that, and I will show you that sometime. But I like it also with the graphic EQ on for the solo boost, because the auto swell gets a lot quieter because you're missing the attacks on the note, and then with both delays and the reverb still on. So let me play that loop for you, and we get this. Oh, and that is that. So let's move on to the more modern country rig. Alright, so this is it, guys, the modern country rig. This, to me, is the much more fun one. Let's see. Things that are the same as the classic rig are the IR, the spring reverb, the graphic EQ, and the parametric EQ. Also, the compressor is the same, sustain at 30%, level at 100. And let's get into the amp real quick. So we are using the matchless MS30, or sorry, we're using the MS30, which is based on the matchless DC30, is what I meant to say. So kind of gave it away early, but I'm sure most of you can figure these amp models out on your own, what they're supposed to be in real life. So this one was pretty easy to dial in, to tell you the truth. So there's a volume and a master volume where the first one, the first one controls kind of like power tube distortion, and then the master volume controls actual overall volume. And let's see here. So treble's at 65, bass is at 65. So everything's on 65 except for the cut, which is at 10%. And you would think that cut means like adding more brightness or more like high mids, but it actually dulls the amp. It's the opposite when it's all the way down, is when it's at its most cutting and brightest, which we like for this sound. You've got everything kind of set to this, and if it's too bright for, say, your guitar, then just dial that cut up to like 30% and just see what happens. Maybe don't mess with the other settings just yet. Just try that cut. The tone gets fatter and darker as you turn it up. So it's kind of an easy tone fattener if you want it. So then there's the air filter, which I assigned the mix to the expression pedal. This is a trick I've shown quite a bit. You'll see when I move the expression pedal up and down, the mix goes up and down. And that's just to save myself a foot switch for other purposes. But, so you have a little bit of wah going on in this rig. So more and more wah has been finding its way into more modern country music lately. So I figured, why not? It's something cool to take up a block with. And then, so the tube screamer is slightly different from the classic rig. We're just adding just a little bit more drive from the tube screamer itself, only 15%, still not much. But so I've got a couple of lead scenes here. The first one is just like a clean lead. It's just more volume with some tape echo and the compressor on. And that sounds like this. And the second lead tone introduces the tube screamer into all of that for just a little more grit. Now, Brad's been touring with a lot of different amps over the years, and I've noticed there's usually always something dirtier than like his main Dr. Z's along with him in the mix, like backstage. Oftentimes it's been Marshall Plexis, pretty dirty and fat sounding. And it kind of gets blended together with his Dr. Z's. So to me, it's okay to get this sound a little bit dirtier, and that sounds like this. Okay, and then this is one of my favorite things in this entire rig. So I made a scene because we have two delays going on here. We have the tape echo from before, just 300 milliseconds, feedback 10%. The mix is at 20%. But I added this BBD delay, a much longer one with a higher mix. So 800 milliseconds, feedback at 10%, and mix at 25%. That's all that's really important. So when we go to our rhythm tone and combine those, we get this kind of cool, like, washy thing. This is nice for the slower ballads, right? So just holding out long chords, doing something really rhythmic, like so that sound is like huge in modern country right now. It's almost ambient kind of thing, but still actual guitar playing involved. Sorry, ambient people. um, and that just about covers it. I mean, there really aren't any intricate effects going on like there is in a lot of the usual like 80s hair stuff that I cover. But this is a pretty solid sounding rig to me, and sorry, I hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. Thanks, guys.